Welcome to today's show. We're talking all about how to run a successful Facebook group for your music brand. I'm really excited to talk about this today because of just a lot that I've learned about Facebook groups from running our amazing Facebook group at Savvy Musician Academy. We have a mastermind, which if you haven't joined, you should do that now. After this episode, of course, and also my two other groups that I run for my music. So I have a group that's more dedicated to a theme, which we're going to talk about. It's not a fan club. And then I also run another group that is a street team. And I'm going to talk about some of the differences between that and how you can create your own Facebook group, what it should be for, and how to run it, and some basic strategies that you can implement right away. So my goal here is to give you some quick strategies that you can implement and get started on right after this episode. So I hope that you run with it. Now, before I jump into this, I just wanted to say that keep in mind that the tips I give here are not exhaustive. Facebook groups have really taken off, and it's no secret that the algorithms are really favoring Facebook groups right now over pages. I'm sure you've noticed across the board, pages all over Facebook. It doesn't matter if you're a celebrity or if you're a small business or just a musician. Organic reach is down the drain. And so, you can go to any celebrity who has millions of followers and you'll see they're getting a couple hundred to maybe a couple thousand likes per post. And that's with millions and millions of followers. So, Facebook has really turned into a pay to play platform. And I'm actually okay with that. And the reason I'm okay with that is because as much as I would love to reach more of the fans I've built up on my page, one thing that it forces us to do is to create better content. And so it makes it a little bit more of a competitive space to create better and better content, because the better content you create, the more people engage with it and the better experience they have. And also the cream rises to the top. So now when we get into the pay to play space, it forces us to up our game in our service, in, thinking through the journey that someone's going through when they are first introduced to our brand, all the way through to where they make a purchase. And so, there's some good, healthy competition, I think, that happens. It's not the same platform that it was 10 years ago, not by a long shot. And so we just kind of have to go with the flow and roll with the punches. So when it comes to building a Facebook group, I want to bring up 5 specific questions, and I'll tell you what they are right now, and then I'm going to dive into each of them. Number 1 is, why do you need a Facebook group for your music brand? Number 2 is, what should you name your Facebook group? How should you run your Facebook group? And what should you post in your Facebook group? Oh, and then another one, how can you turn groupies into customers? So I'm going to cover all of that in this episode. All right, so let's start talking about, why do you need a Facebook group for your music brand? Well, as we just talked about, Facebook algorithms have changed. Earlier this year, Mark Zuckerberg made this huge announcement that the groups are really what they're going to be favoring. Well, groups among really community, because the platform had almost become more like a media platform where it was a lot of video content and people were statistically just passively consuming the content rather than engaging in community. So like 5 to 10 years ago when Facebook first started, do you remember like how many Facebook debates you would see in your news feed? We all see them now, but they're more on like public posts, a lot of political type debates and stuff. But there's a lot of like talking between people and between their communities, between family members and friends and acquaintances. And what Facebook got away from was that whole experience. And what they got into was more of like a media platform, almost like YouTube, which they didn't want to do. And so Mark made this big statement earlier the year saying, hey, we're going to go back to what our original mission was, which was community. Social media is supposed to be social. And of course, I think there's also some impact that drove that decision, which is, I think statistically, there's all kinds of studies showing how social media can negatively impact people, especially when they're consuming very passively, right? So they're just watching videos, they're just scrolling, and they're not commenting, they're not engaging. And that can increase feelings of isolation and loneliness and depression. And so Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook, they don't want to be associated with some of these negative effects, and rightly so. So they are actually making major changes to the platform and the algorithms to ensure that people, what in his words, when they are on Facebook, that it's time well spent. That's what he actually said. Whenever Mark makes statements about the direction they're going in, I really pay attention to it. And if you're not following Mark Zuckerberg, I recommend go to his profile and follow him. And then you're going to get all his updates. You're going to see every time he makes these big statements, what is going on. So that's usually my first thing that I see in my newsfeed whenever he's made a statement. It's really important to follow along with these things. If you're a musician or you even have a side business and you're marketing music, you're marketing anything online, it's important to be up to date with these things. All right. So one of the things he said, and that we've noted since he said that, the way the algorithms have changed is that conversation is king and queen. Conversation, not just content, but your content can be amazing, but if nobody's talking about it, if people aren't commenting back and forth, if you don't have these big threads going on, then that tells the algorithms that the content isn't interesting and it's not worth showing more people. So kind of ouch, kind of a big ouch, actually. But that's how the algorithms are programmed right now. So what they do is say when you post something on your page or a group, if it gets no interaction within a certain amount of time, they basically, shadow ban it, which means it's still there. You can still see it, but nobody is reaching. It's not reaching anybody. So the reach sucks. And so that's what is happening. Now, because conversation is so big, this whole group thing is really what's taking off. And in a way, I don't want to say that it's replacing pages because you still need activity on your pages. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh my gosh, I have to come up with all this content for my page. And now I have to do a group on top of that. Are you kidding me? So we're going to talk about that. But just know that I don't find running these extra groups, I don't find that it's taking much more time. And there's some crossover. There's a lot of sharing going on between my page and my group. So, there are times where you can kill two birds with one stone, but we'll get there soon in this podcast. All right. So conversation is big. You've got to be starting conversation starters, icebreakers. So why else do you need a Facebook group for your music brand? Well, it is great for occasional promotion, but it's very important that you understand that when you start a Facebook group, the point of the group is not going to be for promotion. And that might feel kind of counterintuitive. It's like, well, why would I go through all this effort? Well, the same reason why we had pages. In the same way, pages were also not all about promotion. If you are posting every time in there, buy my music every single time, nobody is going to buy your music. They're going to be very turned off. They're not going to be attracted to you. They don't feel like logging into Facebook to get another commercial, even though they they're already bombarded with ads. And so they don't want to go follow their favorite artist to just hear, buy now all the time. So I would say 1 in every 10 posts, or maybe even 2 out of every 10 posts would be fine. So it's about finding a ratio that works well for you and that you feel your fans are receptive to. Okay, so it's important to just know that. And the purpose of building this group is all about building authentic relationships. Okay, I'll say that again. It's all about building authentic relationships. And that means that you have to care about people. And a shout out to my business mentor, George Bryant, who nobody really knows about. He's very behind the scenes and working with huge companies around the world. He says that relationships beat algorithms, and you can't compare algorithms to relationships. Everybody always wants to know, how can we scale our company? How can we scale our business? How can I scale my music business? There's lots that we can do, but one thing I've learned is that you can't outsource relationships. There are certain things we can automate. We can automate email. We can automate, Messenger. We can automate lots of different things in our business, but you can't automate relationships. And so something one of my business mentors says is that if it can be personal, it must be. And I love that. I totally love that. And again, George is awesome. And I'm blessed to be learning from somebody like this and passing it on to you guys. So that in a group situation, in our Facebook group, we've got to care about people. And I know that sounds so simplistic, so basic, but you'd be surprised how many people don't think about that. They just think of them in terms of fans or potential dollar signs. And that's not going to give you a good basis to build anything. And so make sure that you are thinking about people and that you're caring and you're actually trying to connect with them. And for me, my whole goal is all about, can I build a community of people that I would love to hang out with in real life? I think that's the ultimate goal. And I think that that's not too hard to do because the fans who like our music, well, we already have something huge in common in that I create this kind of music, they're attracted to this kind of music, and therefore we just have a huge camaraderie already just because we're kind of drawn to the same interests and themes in life. And so I think that's going to be an amazing basis to create a Facebook group around. We're going to talk about that. So make sure you know why you're building your Facebook group around your music brand. So I told you why you should build one, but you need to make sure you know your why. So that would be question number 1. All right. Next part is, what should you name your Facebook group? This one's going to be kind of short because I only have a couple of comments on this. I do not recommend building your Facebook group all around your band name because, in my opinion, you're not actually going to build a fan group. It's not going to be fans of my band. So my group is not called Fans of Leah or Leah Groupies or anything like that. I mean, if your fans want to go and start something like that, they totally can, and that's totally awesome. But what I'm going to recommend is you do something a little bit different. We're going to build a Facebook group around the culture of your music. And if that is an unfamiliar term, I recommend that you go and listen to some of the previous episodes in this podcast where I'm talking about your culture and what that means. And that's something that was a new concept to me a number of years ago about how do I build a culture around my music? What even is my culture? How do I figure that out? And, I have a series of questions and a series of exercises and things inside of our programs that really dig very deeply into that. And I'll be the first one to say it's not an easy process figuring that out. It has a lot to do with your micro niche. It has a lot to do with who you are, what you stand for, what your music represents. But when you think of the culture of your music, just to give you an example, I can talk about something like country music because I don't mean to be cliche about it at all, because I think there's a lot of individuality and a lot of very cool things happening in country music, even though I'm not a primary listener of it. But just when you think of country music, like old school country music or bluegrass, you definitely get a picture in your mind of what the culture is like. You might be thinking of the redneck culture and cowboys and horses and tractors and farms and beer and hats and all of that kind of thing, okay? So immediately, I just painted a picture in your brain right now of a culture. So it's almost like a group of people who are all brought together around a certain kind of interest or theme. Now, of course, again, I don't mean to be cliche, but there's a lot of other things that could include or exclude, but just as an example, that would be a culture. So it would be, it could be fans of country music or fans of, redneck culture or something like that, where people coming in the group might not even know that you play music. They might not even be fans of yours yet. So I have kind of a 2 goals here. One is to nurture some of the existing fans I already have. And number 2 is bring in new fans who've never heard of my music before, but they love the theme, they love the culture, and they connect with the culture, because then I can convert those people into fans. See what I did there? So we have some cross promotion happening. And then the fans that I already have in that group are going to be super promoters of my music to these new people who haven't heard of it. And so there's super cool things you can do inside of a group to kind of get that spark going and growing into a flame. So that's really important. So as far as what you name your Facebook group, I'm just going to give you an example of my group, and you can even look it up if you want. So a lot of you who know who I am already, well, I'm Leah, and my music that I play is Leah with all caps. So everybody online knows my personal profile as Leah McHenry, but in my music stage name, it's just Leah, all caps, Leah. And I play Celtic metal. It's like symphonic Celtic fantasy inspired metal. So it's got the drums and the guitar, and it's kind of like Lord of the Rings plus Enya in a blender kind of a thing. Very ethereal, very orchestral, atmospheric stuff, but with kind of the hard edge of the guitars and drums and all that. So I just painted a picture for you right now too. So if you like, when I say Lord of the Rings plus Enya in a blender, you're like, whoa, I know what that, I kind of can imagine that already. And you get pictures of Lord of the Rings and scenes that come to your mind. So things like that, like you're going to get really good at doing things like that, painting pictures for people and describing things that people will relate to as you follow along with these podcasts. And if you join our Facebook group, and if you end up in one of our programs, if you're not already, these things are going to become second nature to you as time goes on. So my group is called Castles, Music, and Magical Places. Now you might be thinking, well, that has like nothing to do with your music. It totally does, and it doesn't at the same time. That's why I say we're going for a theme here and a culture that's based around our music. So when I put castles, music, and magical places, I'm already painting a picture for people. And as a secondary thing is those words are keywords that people may be searching for in the Facebook search feature, which is getting better all the time. So when someone types in castles, like maybe they're looking for pictures of castles or groups, featuring castles, my group is going to come up because it's a keyword that's in there. So a big tip for you is come up with a name that has keywords surrounding the culture of your music. And then, come up with like 5 or 6 different titles and then just narrow it down to like the best one. All right. And I didn't overthink this. I did not spend, so much time thinking about the title. I just came up with the title and that's what I named it. All right. And again, the whole idea is that we're going to attract both our fans. We're going to invite our fans there. And then we also want to attract non-fans, people who are just searching for these great groups they want to be a part of. And then they discover our music inside the group. All right. Next section is how should you run your Facebook group? Well, I have a lot to say on this, but I'm going to try and keep it short. Number 1 is you need to contribute yourself, okay? If you don't show up, then nobody will. Nobody else is going to show up if you're not there. So make sure that you are contributing and posting things also as an example of the type of content you want posted in there. All right. So make sure you're in there. Post a couple of times a day. Like one thing that I do, and we'll talk about this in the next section of what you should post and where to find it. But I join all kinds of different Facebook groups and pages so that my news feed is filled with the things that I think I would like to share. And then some of the work is done for me. I just share or save it to my desktop and then upload it natively right inside the group. So I do things like that. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But make sure you're in there yourself. Don't start a group, invite people, and then never show your face. People are not going to respond well to that at all. All right. Second thing is make sure it's a private group, not an open public group. You want it to feel special. And the only way to do that is to make it exclusive. So that means you're going to have to approve people and disapprove people. The third thing is you're going to want to screen the people coming in. You definitely want to screen for fake accounts. One of the ways you can do that is when people request access to the group, you can go into a little tab and see the date that they joined Facebook. And that's kind of it's a sorting tab when you go to look at who applied to come to your group. And anybody who joined Facebook this year is most likely a fake account. And I would say even maybe from last year too. So I just would disapprove those requests. Most people who have been on Facebook for a long time, they're the real accounts. They've been around for a while. So, that's up to you if you want to do that, but that's what I've been taught and that's what I do. All right. So the next thing you might want to check out for either approving or disapproving people is you can hover over their name and see what other groups that they're a part of. If they're in like 300 other groups, they're probably a fake account. If all those groups are also in a different language, probably a fake account. You can take a look at what country they're from. Do they have a profile photo? You'd be surprised how many people try to join my group and they don't even have a profile photo. They have no photos, no information, no friends. And so it's just likely a fake account or spam of some kind. So be diligent to go through that. You do not want spammy accounts inside your Facebook group. The next thing you're going to want to do is pin your rules in the announcements inside your Facebook group. It's very easy to pin anything to the top of your group, and they used to just be called like pinned posts, but now they've changed it to announcements. Okay, so that is great. You can have more than one announcement, but usually only one thing will be pinned to the top, and that will be the latest thing that you pinned. And so pin the rules, pin the welcome announcement with the rules maybe together at the top of your Facebook group. And that way, when someone joins the group, that's the first thing they're going to see. So make sure that they see it. Let's talk about rules. You definitely need to have a set of rules. I'm going to read you mine, and feel free to borrow these, but make them your own. I mean, the rules need to make sense for the kind of group that you want to run, and be as detailed or general as you want, but detailed is always better so that people know what to expect. You want to set expectations. All right, so here's the rules that I currently have in my group. 1, give and share more than you expect to receive. 2, a strict no negativity policy. 3, keep this a happy place to be. 4, no nudity. 5, no outside promotions. 6, if you see anything that may be harmful, disrespectful, or offensive, please report it to the group admins. 7, sharing music is okay. 8, must be okay with Leah sharing her music and promotions. It's her group after all. And 9, have fun. All right, so my rules are really simple, actually not very specific at times. So when I say no outside promotions, I've had actually a couple of questions about that because I didn't specify what I consider a promotion. So that's something I might want to add some more details on. So a promotion might be like other people promoting their music, like buy now type stuff, or sharing, stores or links to Amazon or something like that. So that's not what I'm allowing in this group. However, I wanted to make sure they knew that sharing music is okay. So I'm totally fine with people sharing other metal bands and other things that have to do with the group. As long as it fits the theme of the group, that's totally cool with me. So again, feel free to use that, tweak it, make it your own, and have it make sense for your type of group. All right, next is, what should you post in your Facebook group? I think this is the biggest hang up that a lot of people have, is like, how do I, number one, how do I get people in my group? And number 2, what do I post? I don't know what to post. And I'll just say, as far as getting people in your group, the hardest part about a Facebook group is getting it going. If you only have 50 people in there or 20 people in there, there's not going to be a lot of activity, and that's totally normal. So you want to get your first few hundred people in there as quickly as possible. So out of the gate, I'm going to say, definitely start inviting your friends and family and fans to your group. Don't add someone to the group without their permission, though. That's the most annoying thing ever. And I've done it to people by accident too, where I thought they would have to accept the invitation, but it literally just added them in the group. So make sure that you don't do that. Because I know I've been added to groups and I'm like, hey, I didn't say I wanted to be in this group. Let me out. So it's important that you're going to want to send out invitations. Okay. So you can invite people. And invite your email list if you have one. Invite your fans who are on all your social media platforms. Do a video on YouTube. Do a video on Instagram. Do a live video on Instagram. Do a live video on Facebook. There's all kinds of different methods you can do to get your fans into your Facebook group. And you should be able to get to your first few hundred fairly quickly if you do all of these things. Think of, what are all the channels that I'm on? What are all the channels I have access to right now? Okay, I got Instagram, got Twitter, got Snapchat, I have Facebook, I have YouTube, and any other platform you have. I have my email list, our Bandcamp account. Make announcements everywhere and do it regularly. When you do it regularly and consistently, you will build your Facebook group in no time. All right, so as for the content, what should you post? Well, you need great themed content that's relevant to the culture of your music. I can say that again. You need great themed content that's relevant to the culture of your music. All right, so you're going to want to vary the types of posts in there. So you're going to want a mix of photos, videos, text, polls, live videos, and watch parties, and keep it varied. Mix it up. People get bored when they see the same thing over and over again. All right. So when you go to post in a Facebook group, they give you all kinds of options. And maybe you haven't seen all of them lately, but they keep adding new things all the time, which is great. So when you go into a Facebook group and you go to post, make a post, there's going to be a bunch of drop-down options right there for you. And sometimes this will appear totally different on a mobile device than on a desktop. I recommend that you go on a desktop and check out all the options they give you there. So like I said, you can do photos, videos, you can create an album of photos. That's kind of fun sometimes. Have people vote on things like, hey, what's your favorite, garden? Here's like 6 different gardens. Click like on the one that you like the most. Super fun, just creative things like that. You can do videos. And I actually love the poll feature that they offer right there in the post. So you can poll your fans and be like, hey, do you like this t-shirt design? I've done this a number of times. And where I get them to vote on something or tell me, what their deepest, darkest secrets are, whatever it is. Be creative with it. And people love answering polls. They just do. And another cool feature is watch parties. So you can do live videos now inside your group. You can even do stories inside of your group, just almost like Instagram stories. But watch parties is a really fun feature where you can premiere a video. You can upload a video and basically premiere it live, and where all your fans inside the group get a notification that you have just gone live started a watch party. And then they can come on live, and then once the video ends, it ends. And I think you can post it so they can watch it again after the fact. But it's kind of a cool, fun thing. And again, Facebook is trying to make it so that you're not passively watching media, that you're doing it in more of a community group setting. So it's kind of slightly awkward at this point. I think there's going to be some wrinkles that they'll iron out with it, but I've tried it out already. I did it for when I launched my documentary for my album launch, and it was really cool. So it was like a 30-minute documentary, and all you do is select a video. Like you can select a video from anywhere on Facebook. You just type in the URL. And once it's there, everybody gets a notification that, Leah's premiering a video inside the group. So they get that notification, they click on it, and there they are watching it live. And so it's cool. You can post live videos of pre-recorded content. So that's really neat. So definitely be creative with that kind of thing. And I'll say again, stick to a theme. So you don't want to have if your theme is all about, castles and landscapes and mysterious places like what I have, it wouldn't make any sense for me next day to post random recipes of strawberry shortcake. You know what I'm saying? That's not what the group is about. And if they wanted recipes of strawberry shortcake, they'd go to a recipe group. And so it's important I stay consistent with the theme. And then everybody else chips in. Once you get that going, other people are like, oh, okay, I know what kind of content this group likes. And when they're seeing things in their newsfeed, then they start sharing it. And before you know it, you have lots of posts per day. And that brings me to my next point, is that make sure you let others post and turn off the setting that would require for post approvals. And so just let people post and then rely on your rules and moderating to do the rest of the work. Okay. So you do get settings to choose if someone can just automatically post without permission or if you need to approve the post. So make sure you keep that off in a group like this and just do a good job at monitoring who comes into the group and just screening those people. And then make sure your rules are clear and easy to follow, easy to find, and then, have a moderator. And I actually recruited one of my super fans to be a moderator in my group. And I think that's an amazing thing to be able to do. So Facebook now gives people badges for the most active people, the conversation starters, the people who are posting the most. And so I recommend, after a period of time, finding those people who are contributing the best and the most and asking, hey, would you like to be a moderator on this group? You can also just make a post and say, hey, who here would love to be a moderator for this group and keep it an amazing place to be? And you usually always get a few volunteers. So that's how you can get moderators in your group to keep it flowing well so that you don't have to be doing all the admin. And lastly, for content, I'll say try to post spontaneously and use Facebook's native scheduler. And by native, I mean you're doing it right there on the platform within the group and not using a third-party app like Buffer or MeetEdgar or one of these social media schedulers. The reason is that these third-party apps kill your reach. And they didn't always affect it that badly, but we definitely know that it does now. And Facebook does not favor third-party apps. So when it comes to your Facebook group, definitely schedule it within the group using Facebook Scheduler. And you want a mix of that plus spontaneous posts. You don't want to have it all scheduled because then people know that it's scheduled. Scheduling is great for like repeated content or like if you're going to go live every week so that people know, something like that, and maybe the occasional post, but not everything. So make sure you really mix that up. All right, we've come to the final chapter here in how you can turn groupies into customers. I think this is one of the biggest questions people have. It's like, okay, so I got people in my group, I'm posting stuff, they're engaging with some of the content, but how do I get them to buy my music or my merchandise? Well, I have a few suggestions, and one is always have a pinned post to the top of your group. And like I said before, they're now called announcements, and they're basically static posts where people can always find them. So there always will be the latest one you pinned to the top of your group, but if they click on the announcements tab inside the group, they can actually see all the different announcements in there. So definitely direct people to the announcements tab so they can check out all the different things you have. Now, those posts in the announcement could definitely contain a link, perhaps to download a song for free in exchange for an email. So you can build your email list, and if you're into marketing at all, you'll know that most sales are not made on the front end, or I should say the bulk of your revenue is not made on the front end. It's made on the back end of your funnel, right? And for those of you who don't know what a funnel is, it's just like a large amount of people kind of finding out about you and kind of coming down. If you picture like a funnel, where you would pour water into it. And so there's a larger amount of water pouring into the top and a small amount pouring out of the bottom. The bottom of the funnel is where the purchases are happening. And so there's a large amount of people seeing, who you are and discovering your music. And then as it comes down the funnel, a smaller percentage of people are actually going to buy. So as they enter your email funnels, that's where the bulk of your revenue is going to happen as you have follow-up emails and e-commerce emails, or sending them to your shop, buying your merchandise. These are all things I go into in great detail in our elite program. Go to callsma.com if you're interested in being in that program, where we have weekly coaching and very, very in-depth program for advanced digital marketing for music. Now, besides those pinned posts, you can definitely occasionally promote in your group. And I would recommend doing it via a Facebook Live, via free downloads. You can announce certain sales at times, perhaps discounts. I'm not a huge fan of running discounts all on your music. I think that you don't need to do that. But just as a suggestion, that's the kind of things you can do occasionally in your group. Just make sure that your intention is set when you create this group, that it's not all about self-promotion. It's about community. It's about relationships. It's about culture and building those cultural relationships together in a community setting. And within that, there's definitely a time and a place to promote, for sure. And I do the same thing with email, the same thing with my Facebook page, and same thing with website, all of it. I like, a 20 to 80 ratio. 80% great content, 80% relationship, and it's all about that. And not that sales aren't about relationships, they totally are. But 20% is, for me, outright promotion and shameless promotion. I don't feel that promoting is shameful at all. We need to make a living. We deserve to get paid for the value we bring. Right? And I'm not saying that as an entitlement thing. I'm just saying the marketplace will help us determine, is there a demand for a product? And if there is, compensation is completely appropriate. One last note about how you can turn groupies into customers is that in the future, we don't have this yet, but in the future, we'll be able to run ads to groups as a placement in addition to the Facebook newsfeed and Instagram and all these different third-party placements, okay? And if you're not into ads, just know that it's going to be really cool. You'll be able to advertise, I think, to your own group. I'm not sure if you'll be able to advertise to other groups, but groups as a placement for where you could see ads will be an option in the future, but it hasn't rolled out yet. So keep your eyes peeled and listen to this podcast, because I'll definitely be talking about it when that happens. And so, ads are such an amazing thing that we can run though outside of our groups. And sometimes I run ads to my own fans on my page or to my email list to join the group so that they're seeing me in multiple places. And so that's something, again, that I teach very much more in depth in our elite system, in our elite superfan system mentorship program. And again, there's so much to learn here. So I hope that this was an amazing episode for you. I hope that you learned a lot. And most importantly, I hope that you go and implement this right away. People need to know that there's a way that you can do this. You don't need a third party. You don't need a middleman. You don't need anybody else telling you what to do. You can do this. You can run your own music business. You can be profitable. You can live your dream exactly the way you always imagined, just going to be a little bit differently. And you get to reap the reward and savor in the success. So this was an amazing episode. I hope you loved it. We'll talk to you soon. This episode was sponsored by the Superfan System Elite program here at Savvy Musician Academy. If you are looking to scale your existing music business and you're looking to get into advanced digital marketing, such as email marketing, funnels, e-commerce, Facebook ads, and more, and you're looking to build a real profitable online music business, book a call with our team at www.callsma.com. We would love to speak with you for about 30 minutes and see how we can help you. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast for more episodes, and we'll see you next time.